Hello. Um, Day 11 of Moon 1. So, day 10 through 12 is a day to invite friends to dinner or for a meal, etc. So, um, my name's Ollie. This is Red Sun Horizons. I am an Eastern physiotherapies practitioner from the south of England. So, that's Southsea in Hampshire in England. So today, again, obviously, we're still going through day by day the Lunar Tao by Den Ming Dao, and this is day 11 of Moon 1. So 10 days ago was Chinese New Year. Okay, the title for today is Have You Eaten Yet? So this is an old way of greeting people. Obviously, when China was in a lot more sort of poverty and the economy was way worse than it is today, and people were effectively, rather than just generally say hello to each other, they would actually say have you eaten yet, because it was of a general concern. More specifically, the translation would be have you eaten rice yet? So that kind of poverty, obviously, where literally it was just a lot of the time it was just rice would be what was available, and much like in English, we say the word meal, which comes from literally the old grain meal. It was a staple thing that was like just something to fill you in that sense. They would say, and they still do, in Mandarin, they say ifan. Fan is rice. Ifan is one meal or one first meal. Arfan and Sanfan. So if you had 3 meals a day, you would have one meal, one rice, 2 rice, 3 rice. But it's your 3 meals of the day. The actual saying, obviously it's a have you eaten rice yet? And then my gratitude is high as a mountain flowing like water, that kind of stuff. It doesn't actually give the translation of that from memory. The Nietzsche fan ma, and then ma is a spoken question mark. Nietzsche fan ma. It would be something around that kind of thing. But yeah. I studied Mandarin for a year, but I haven't practiced for about 15 years. So my pronunciation has really gone. So again, if any of this comes up, it's all written in pinyin. So if people's names, again, there is always a little bit of interpretation, and someone who is from the south of China would pronounce Mandarin different to someone from the north of China. If you think about the way accents differ in a country as small as, say, England, then look at the size of China and how old the language is. And there's still like 5 different languages in China, not just Mandarin. There's Mandarin Cantonese, and there's these other variants, which are some are seen to be subsets of like Hakka, which is a subset of Mandarin, etc. But yes. Okay, so have you eaten yet? So today is a day for kind of like eating with friends, inviting friends to eat and all that kind of stuff. So when we eat, we share food with others. We extend the benefits that comes from hard work of planting and harvesting, and from the blessing of nature itself. So there is always this very much this thing in Taoism of being obviously not just subject to nature, but being part of nature. And working with the land, and it's something that we've really lost in the West. We still have, when you look at astrology and all that kind of stuff, we still have like the harvest moon and all that kind of stuff, and the snow moon, which are like obviously what the names we gave for each lunar cycle. So each full moon of each lunar cycle, and that would represent where we were in the season. So Hunter's moon would be that kind of time where we had the crops were in, or the crops had done their lots, and there was nothing more to be gained from, say, agriculture, but arable farming. And it was more about sort of like Hunter's moon. So you would go and you would get like the deer and all that kind of stuff that had already like raised their young. And there were no wolves anymore, and we still do this now, obviously, because there are no wolves. So, hunting deer or culling deer is actually a necessity in many ways. But yes, and then obviously all that dried meat would be cured, all that meat would be dried or cured and all that kind of stuff, and etc. Okay, so So on this day, to visit others and especially to have family reunion dinner, the centrality of eating is important. The centrality of eating is a big thing in China. They do have a saying that to eat is a heaven. 这是天. We share our table, we share our meals, we walk about the past and make plans for the future. Shared dining fortifies us. If you are what you eat, then you are shaped by what you share as you eat. Yes, yeah, there you go. So I just had to make sure I read that right. If you are what you eat, then you are shaped by what you share as you eat. Sharing the same meal reaffirms kinship. Okay, so yeah, and another thing with so much like the history of the Round Table, going through the Arthurian sort of history thing, where all tables were always square and there was always a head of the table, and then it was an honour to be at the foot of the table, or the wife would be at the foot of the table and all that kind of stuff. They were the first people to bring in a round table because it was all people equal and everything else. That round table is a very traditional thing in Chinese Taoist history anyway. For that same reason, you are always sat next to someone you love. You always, the person who is sat furthest away from you is the person you are facing. So there's always this equanimity and equality. Everyone has equal distance to the food in the middle, and everyone is eating the same things. It's that, and if you go to a traditional Chinese restaurant, you will find those, and often they'll have like a spinning center in the middle as well, so people can spin and get to everything. But there's a whole etiquette as well with like who you serve first, and you serve the guests first, and all this kind of stuff, and you would, all that kind of bits and pieces. Yeah, so the last bit I'll read from this is, this planet is also round. There is no head position on a sphere. All parts of the surface are equal, and yet at the round table of our planet, there are still people who go hungry. There is more than enough to go round. If we share the food at our family table with abundance and joy, we should also take the time to see those who are not at our small family table, but who are silently sitting hungry at our large family table. Yeah. So really just going to take from that to find something from the Tao Te Ching itself. And there is, it's obviously where we are now, especially we're going through this big transition of consciousness and ascension of consciousness, and the people who refer to themselves as the elite, etc. There's kind of God complex, psychopathic people who have kind of taken hold over the last few centuries. That time is going, that time is slipping, so they're making more and more desperate acts, and obviously people are starting to wake up to it more and more, and yeah. But obviously the biggest power they ever have is to instill fear through the media and everything else. But so I like this one, it just kind of fits in nicely with that one. So it starts off quite funny really. So, governing a large country is like frying a small fish. You spoil it with too much poking. Center your country in the Tao, and evil will have no power. Not that it isn't there, but you will be able to step out of its way. Give evil nothing to oppose, and it will disappear by itself. Yeah. So, unity, obviously. So, obviously, in these first few weeks of the Chinese New Year, it is all about unity. It's all about re-establishing connection. And there was a nice word that was in that last bit in there, which is reaffirming kinship, learning forgiveness, re-establishing relationships, etc. Or at least finding closure on relationships. And if you can't amend with someone, then obviously trying to end something in the right way, etc. But the one tool I'm going to throw in for that is a sound frequency. So from the solfeggio set of, well, there's 9 of them effectively, but 174 through 963. Number 639 is what is believed to be very much aligned with the heart, and it is very much the one you would use for reaffirming relationships. So that can be between you and another person, or it can be more practically, especially if you're using a tuning fork. You would kind of sit and meditate or focus on that person itself. It doesn't even have to be someone who's still alive. It can be a bad relationship with a previous partner, guardian, etc., parent. And you can literally focus on that, bring everything up, journal, put everything in a semblance of order, so you can really structure it and assemble, and then kind of say, justify, okay, that's why that happened. I need to take ownership of this, and this, because it, any relationship, it's always both. Even if that person was an absolute, domineering type person, there is still like, I allowed this, and this because of my past, and then you start digging deeper into that kind of thing. It is kind of what I am steadily focusing on more and more in my practice. So the 8 extraordinary meridians, especially the mental health side, the deeper mental health side of things, and the origin of things, karmic clearing, etc. It's kind of where I'm focusing more and putting more and more of my studies into. So 639 is a nice one for that. As an individual in your own time, outside of any treatment or therapy you go to with any modality, 639, literally you can at that time focus on that person and just place that in front of your heart. And I personally like anti-clockwise circles. That probably looks clockwise on the camera, but you would do it either way. So this point in front is Ren 17. This is the front move point for the pericardium, or the physical heart itself. Just below that, down to just off of the xiphisternum, is Ren 15, which is the front move point for, or the front control point for the heart. So we talk about the heart and the pericardium because they are two separate meridians. Pericardium runs through this way, and the heart runs from the inside of the little finger down into here. But both treat mental health, both treat Shen, the mind. So Shen disturbance in TCM is really like full Shen disturbance is what we would call psychosis, but there are more ingrained Shen disturbances, obviously, like BPD, bipolar, etc. But okay, before I go completely off course, before we go too long into that, yes, today is all about unity. It's all about re-establishing friendships and kinship, and just strengthening and bolstering. But obviously, if there are things to be remedied or to be finalised, you can also focus on that. And where we are now, we are going through this shift of consciousness. So the more you work on yourself, and the more you learn to forgive others by learning your own faults and learning to forgive yourself, going back to the thing about compassion over the last couple of days, it is that. So you can greatly benefit from that, and we as a species, as a race, it's where we are. It's what we need to do right now. It's in order to kind of regain and reclaim control of our lives and the human race and the planet, we need to work on ourselves. 639 is a nice one. You can get audio ones, and if that helps, I like the analog. It's a little bit more direct and a little bit more specific to the area. And yeah, that is everything for today. I will see you tomorrow.